She held your hand like a child clutches a doll it plans to destroy. You thought it was love, her laughter, her eyes soft with memory. The way she leaned in just close enough to make your blood forget the cold. But there was something beneath her smile, a calculation flickering behind her pupils, like a mirror remembering the flame that cracked it. You spoke too soon. You told her you felt something real. You said the word love like it was safe, like it was yours to give. But in her world, the man who bleeds first is already the prey. You are not in her dream, you are in her myth. And the man who confesses too early becomes her father, her fool, her failure. She needs the mask to stay on, the silence to last longer. Your eagerness disgusts her not because it is wrong, but because it is uninitiated. And now, you cannot take it back. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo. Like the video. Leave your shadow in the comments. Subscribe. And stay near the silence. She cannot trust the man who rushes to offer love because he has not seen her buried masks, only her reflection. You think it's sincerity that will win her. You imagine that to open yourself early like a boy holding out a clean apple will stir some mothering instinct, some flood of compassion. But you are wrong. The faster you declare your devotion, the more she knows you have not seen her. Because a man who sees her cannot fall in love so easily, not without pausing at the shadows that don't blink, not without hesitating at the place where her laughter sounds like a rehearsed lullaby. You confuse her surface with her soul, and in doing so, you become dangerous. Not because you intend harm, but because you have no idea where you're standing. You are a child declaring eternal loyalty at the edge of a cliff he hasn't looked over. She keeps something under her bed. You won't find it unless you stop trying to impress her. It's not hidden in the way you think. It's not shame, not even pain. It's something else, something older. It smells like moths and rose perfume, like time that has curdled into silence. You talk of the future, of how kind she seems, how lovely her eyes look in the rain. But beneath her bed, wrapped in old lace and leather, is a version of herself she never finished becoming. The girl who learned to fake joy to survive. The girl who studied the people who hurt her and decided to become what they wanted just long enough to escape. You don't see her yet. You see her gestures. You see the way she nods when you speak. You see the words she learned to say to men who want her to be grateful, soft, available. But the real her, the one with the open box, is still watching from a cold place inside. She's wondering why you're not asking about the cracks in the wall behind her smile. She's wondering why your love comes so quickly. Love that arrives too soon is not love. To her, it is hunger. And hunger, in her life, always demanded something in return. She tried once to show someone the box. She was young. She thought honesty would be enough. She opened it slowly, trembling, and placed it on the table like a holy wound. The man smiled. He said she was strong. He said he admired her for surviving. And then he tried to fix her, patch the stories, erase the symbols, fold the jagged edges into something more digestible. He didn't understand that the box was not a problem. It was a labyrinth, and only a man who could walk its halls in silence deserved to be inside it at all. Now, when a man says I love you before he's walked the labyrinth, she knows he is only in love with her echo. And what is more dangerous than a man who thinks he's found something when he's only seen the wrapping? She has known too many who unwrap women like gifts, discard the mystery, and then wonder why it bleeds. You want to be the exception. You want to love her more deeply, more truly, more bravely, but your pace betrays you. You're still trying to escape the part of yourself that fears not being chosen. Love, for her, is not a door you knock on. It is a room buried beneath a house with no windows. The hallway leading there is lined with dolls' missing eyes. picture frames turned backward, letters burned halfway through. If you say I love you without first walking down that hallway, you insult everything she's had to survive. You pretend the ghosts don't matter and she will resent you, even if she smiles while doing so. She does not want you to heal her. She wants to know if your gaze can rest on her without flinching. Can you sit in a room where the air smells like grief and not fill the silence with solutions? Can you ask nothing from her, not reassurance, not reciprocation, not a performance? Can you watch her disappear and not chase? Can you see her in stillness and still want to stay? She has tested men before, not out of malice, but necessity. She whispers half-truths just to see if you ask. She will delay her replies, change the subject when her eyes glaze over, turn cold when your praise gets too sweet. Because the woman who keeps the box beneath her bed does not trust flattery, she trusts pattern recognition. She wants to know if you see the loop repeating, the place where her heart retreats whenever someone tries to own it. The box contains tokens, fragments of the selves she's worn. The first letter she wrote to a man who never wrote back. A photograph where her body looks alive, but her eyes are not. A note from her mother that smells like lavender and disapproval. If you find yourself near it, if by some quiet miracle she lets you see the edge you must not reach. Not with your hands, not with your voice. Only your presence will be weighed. The part of you that doesn't need her to be whole in order to stay. You said love too early because you were afraid of losing her, but she will never belong to a man who fears her departure more than he reveres her essence. You wanted to impress her with your devotion, not realizing she's watched men worship her mask and then run from her shadow. She will never trust love that is blind to her darkness. And she will never trust the man who speaks of forever without surviving her silence. You are not supposed to unlock her. You are supposed to stand beside the box and wait. If your soul was carved for hers, the lock will fall off on its own, but only if you can resist the urge to turn her into your proof of goodness, your project, your pedestal, because she does not want to be loved. Not at first. She wants to be seen, and being seen is not romantic. It is excruciating. It is the moment you realize she is not who you hoped she'd be and staying anyway. It is the moment her mask breaks, and beneath it is not a girl, not a goddess, but a ruin. And you do not run. If you already said too much, she remembers. She may not mention it, but the room shifted. You can feel it now. That strange chill when her warmth doesn't return. That pause in her eyes, like a bird deciding whether to fly. You are no longer who she hoped you might be, because to her, the man who can't wait to love her is not brave. He is blind, and the unopened box will remain unopened until you forget the need to open it, until your silence makes her curious, until your presence earns her dissent. To love her too soon is to become her projection, a reenactment of what hurt her, dressed in affection's disguise. She doesn't see you, not at first. She sees the outline, the archetype, the imprint of a man that history carved into her blood long before your face ever arrived. And when you step toward her heart with open arms and trembling words, you may think you are offering yourself. But what she receives is a memory, a shadow, a stranger wearing a coat that once belonged to someone who left her out in the cold. You mistake her distance for a test of patience, but it is a ritual of war. Her mind is a battlefield where warmth has often arrived first as a weapon, sugar-laced promises followed by silence, kindness used as bait. She has learned to look at affection sideways, like a beast trained to expect the leash behind the outstretched hand. And so, when you love her too soon, you don't become her salvation. You become her hallucination, a character her soul wrote long ago, reenacted with fresh skin. You want to believe that love heals, that it erases what came before, that if your voice is gentle and your heart is earnest, you can rewrite the past with the softness of your present. But she has already seen your face, not yours exactly, but the symbolic one, the father's coat worn by every man who wanted her obedience more than her essence. Your words wrap around her like a script she's heard before, and though you are not him, you might as well be, because you entered her life through the door he left open. She does not want to distrust you, but her soul is not a blank slate, it is a palimpsest, layered with names she tried to forget. The man who loved her too fast, then vanished the moment she cried without explaining why. The one who told her she was everything, then demanded she become nothing. The father who praised her when she was pretty, silent and smiling, but turned cold when she asked to be understood. You wear his coat now, even if you never met him. You speak in his cadence when you say she is special before knowing her pain. You repeat his rhythm when you rush to commit before enduring her chaos. And so she waits, not passively but with a sharp, ancestral awareness. She watches your love like prey watches still water for the alligator's blink. She waits for the moment your warmth becomes control. She waits for the first time your patience frays when she does not soften on cue. She waits to see if your love depends on her becoming easier to understand. If it does, you vanish, not in body, but in presence. She may still respond to your texts, still kiss you back, but the part of her that might have revealed itself is gone. Because you arrived not as a witness, but as a reenactor. The father's coat has many buttons, some stitched from flattery, others from fear. You think you're reassuring her when you call her your world, your reason, your muse. But those are the same words men have used to turn her into a stage. You want her to feel safe, but love that arrives as rescue always contains a noose. She sees it even if you don't, especially when you don't. You think your urgency is proof of purity, but to her, it is a sign of blindness. No one moves toward the fire that fast without trying to burn something else inside them. She does not need you to burn. She needs you to sit still, to feel the gravity of her without collapsing into it. She needs to see if your eyes flinch when she becomes unrecognizable. Because love, for her, is not about finding someone who stays the same. It is about discovering whether the man behind the warmth can survive transformation, not just hers, but his own. And that's where most men fail. They want her to stay beautiful, stay manageable, stay grateful. They want to remain the hero. But the coat slips, and when she reveals her rage, her ruin, her rituals, the mask you didn't know you wore begins to crack. You speak of commitment, but your soul still seeks reward. You say she can be anything, but only if that anything still wants you back. So she does what she's always done. She mirrors your reflection, not to deceive, but to protect. If you want the girl, she becomes her. If you need the lover, she performs. If you long for salvation, she lets you believe you've provided it. But inside, she is watching. She is cataloging the moment your need outweighs your presence. And the moment you try to fix her, she knows you never saw her. You cannot love a woman like this by removing her pain. You must learn to love the pain itself, not in a fetishized way, not in a poetic fantasy, but in silence, in reverence. You must understand that her wounds are not shameful. They are altars, and the man who touches them too quickly desecrates what could have been holy. You must feel the weight of her history pressing into your chest and not try to push it away. She tests you not to make you jump, but to see if you vanish. She disappears for a day. She changes her tone. She contradicts herself mid-sentence. She tells you a story that doesn't quite add up. Not because she is dishonest, but because the story is not about facts. It's about whether you notice, whether you ask, Whether you punish her for not making sense. The man in the father's coat never asked. He just assumed. He filled in the blanks with what made him feel strong. She doesn't need strength. She needs presence. And if you fail, she will not scream. She will not cry. She will not beg. She will vanish with grace. She will fold her soul back into itself and continue the play. She has done it 100 times before, and each time she becomes harder to reach, not colder but more camouflaged. And one day, the man who could have seen her will say she is complicated, too much, a mystery. But in truth, he never stayed long enough to watch her shed the coat. You want her to see you, but first, you must remove the coat, the one you didn't know you were wearing, the one stitched from your need to be accepted, from your hunger to be special, from your fantasy that love fast and loud will heal your loneliness. Strip it, sit bare before her, let her see the trembling, the confusion, the stillness. Let her see you not performing. Let her feel you not fleeing. Then maybe she'll come closer. Then maybe her hand will touch your shoulder without flinching. Then maybe you'll stop playing her father and start becoming yourself. Not her savior, not her dream, not her projection, just a man who waited and did not vanish when the light changed. She tests your presence by vanishing. Only the man who watches without reaching survives the trial of the soul. She disappears. Not to be cruel, but to see what remains when she is no longer convenient. One day it is her silence. Another, her distance. A gaze that no longer softens when you enter the room. A laugh that arrives 2 beats too late, if at all. You feel it before you understand it. The quiet decays, the warmth, the script changes. You don't know your lines anymore. And this, exactly this, is the ritual. Because she is not watching your words. She is watching your eyes when the attention stops. She is watching who you become when her glow withdraws. When the mirror you thought reflected your desire now shows only a still surface and your own face in it. She is watching to see if you love her, or if you were only intoxicated by the reflection she gave you. The man who loves her too soon fails this trial almost always. He rushes in with explanations. He touches her shoulder and asks if everything is okay. He floods her inbox with validation, love poems, projections of longing, not knowing, perhaps never knowing, that she is not testing for affection. She is testing for depth, for containment, for self. And the man who cannot sit with his own discomfort will never be able to hold hers. She wants to know who you are without her light, without her gaze reflecting back the fantasy you project. She wants to know whether your soul can rest beside hers in the dark, whether you reach because you're afraid, or whether you can feel her fading and still wait in reverence. It's not stoicism she craves, it's containment, the ability to witness her, not manage her. Because this mirror, the one you've stepped into, doesn't flatter, it reveals. And if you flinch, she will feel it, not in your face, but in the vibration beneath your words, the subtle tightening of your sentences, the way your hand lingers just a moment too long, like it's reaching not for her body, but for the reassurance you believe she owes you. She knows. She has lived through men who mistook her warmth for permission, who watched her light and thought it meant safety, thought it meant they could plant their broken selves inside her and call it love. And now, when you watch her go quiet, you stand at the edge of a labyrinth where so many have already vanished. You think she's withdrawing, but no, she is descending into herself, into the place where her instincts are older than speech, where she no longer cares what you want, only what you are. And here, in this descent, there is no guide, no explanation, no offer, only the mirror and your gaze devoured by it. You will be tempted to chase, to explain, to demand clarity. You will want her to return to the woman who made you feel alive, the woman who smiled at your jokes, leaned into your arms, responded quickly, sweetly, consistently. You will want her to reflect your worth again, and you will not understand that she is not a mirror. She is the one behind the mirror, the one watching how you react when the reflection turns to shadow. Because every woman like this, the kind who disappears, has already died once emotionally. She has stood in a room where a man praised her light but punished her silence. She has wept in the arms of someone who said "I love you" and then shamed her for needing too much. She has been adored but not seen, cherished but not held, saved but never understood. So now, when she disappears, it is not a game, it is not manipulation, it is her soul recoiling from the velocity of your desire. It is her instincts sensing your hunger before your hands ever reach. She does not want you to rescue her. She wants to know, will you stay when I stop performing? She wants to know if you can watch her unravel without trying to weave her back into your fantasy. If you can witness her complexity without reducing her to a role that fits your need for control. If you can love her without needing to be loved back in a way that soothes your own chaos. Because when she disappears, she is not punishing you. She is measuring you. She measures how long you last in her absence, how still your presence remains when the air gets thick. She listens to the silence between your texts, not for what you say, but for what lurks behind what you say. She feels the undercurrent. She always has. She was trained, after all, in survival. You must become the man who watches without grabbing, who feels the ache and doesn't sedate it, who senses her pull away and doesn't interpret it as failure. You must learn to sit beside her metaphorically, even when she is miles away. You must hold a space without filling it with your need. That is the trial. And if you pass it, if you truly pass, she may begin to return. Not as the girl you first adored, not as the fantasy you chased, but as the woman she is when no one is watching, the woman without the mask, the woman with blood on her hands and fire in her voice, the woman who trusts you because you didn't make her prove anything. She might not say it, but you'll feel it. The way her eyes meet yours without armor, the way her breath softens near your chest, the way she stops scripting her affection and simply is. She won't offer this often. She won't offer it again if you fail. But for a moment, the mirror breaks, and she lets you see her, not the girl, not the dream, not the myth, but the soul behind the silence. And you, if you're still there, are no longer just a man. You are the mirror that did not shatter under her gaze. You are the witness she thought did not exist, and for that she might love you, not with performance, not with possession, but with presence. That is all she ever wanted, to vanish and still be seen, to test and not be punished, to withdraw and find someone still waiting. If you've vanished too, she'll know. If you've clung, she'll close. If you've waited, she'll rise, and you'll understand, at last, that love was never the point. The mirror was. The silence was. The disappearance was the question, and your stillness was the only answer she could ever trust. There's a room with no door, only a curtain that moves when no one breathes. You stand outside, unsure if you've been invited or imagined the path. Inside, a figure sits with her back turned, combing her hair by candlelight. She doesn't ask you to enter. She doesn't ask you to leave. She waits, as if your presence might finish a sentence she began in childhood. The floor is covered in ashes, the mirror is cracked, but warm, and somewhere behind her ribs, an old version of you is already watching. Will you speak, or will you stay silent long enough to be remembered? She won't tell you. But she's listening for the man who doesn't run when the reflection fades, and somewhere she is already beginning to turn.